IBM. Well, this is one of the makers of AI. If you really think about it, from all the way to their Watson days. And this is a good sign because this tells us they want to put some pressure on that. Bitcoin is rejecting that order block. I kind of gave you a little warning because at this point, we already attempted to get past here. We did the first part right here, and then Tesla. Now, the magic behind Tesla is also his downfall too, right? Because it's one of those very volatile ones that kind of goes all over the place whenever it feels like it. This thing wants to get to. We got gold. Gold is over here trying its best to hold on to these levels, but you can kind of see we're kind of getting these cross candles that's showing. Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. Before you take the trade, it is your host, JD the Great. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. That way it lets the algorithm know what the hell I'm doing on here. Anyways, we got a lot of work that we got to go to, so let's get right to it. We got NQ. NQ went ahead and pushed right on up. They filled that fair value gap and continued to that upside, and there's a lot of question marks here. Do we just double top over here? Is this an M pattern? Whole bunch of people are trying to figure that out right now, but the best question here is that we're going to the earnings session. So how will the earnings session have an effect on those trades? So hey, just plan accordingly. We'll see what happens. I got a nice little uptrend into here. We're very close to that level. All-time high is at that 394. Can we get there? I'm seeing a little bit of a reversal with the Asian session. Let's see if the New York session puts in that fair value gap and then they start to put some real pressure on the bears. All right, so let's go ahead and keep this going. We got CL. CL is trying to break through its order block. We haven't been down here since May of 2025, and this is an area that is super tough because we got a whole entire order block that's sitting over here that started back in 2020. And you remember when I told you yesterday, this is that time when we had negative gas, and I still don't understand the math behind it. Anyways, let's keep this party going. We got gold. Gold is over here trying its best to hold on to these levels, but you can kind of see we're kind of getting these cross candles that's showing that they want to pull it right back down, or is this consolidation so that way they can get these oscillators to reset so that way they're comfortable to play it to the upside. Be patient, watch for your entry, and you should be able to find a nice little spot. Look at that silver. Silver is dragging the commodities right down. You can see it's starting to make its downtrend a little bit more prevalent. Let's see if this MACD actually puts some pressure and we can see a nice little pivot coming down to those lower levels. Let's go over to British pound. British pound is trying to figure its way out because that head and shoulder is still holding on, and that M pattern is like, we ain't doing it. So there's a lot of questions that's going to be here. If we look at this trend line that's happening on this micro, we're probably looking at a breakout that's happening right now. So if the British pound starts to strengthen, it's going to weaken the dollar and we're going to get more higher prices, aka NQ. All right, let's go ahead and get over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is rejecting that order block. I kind of gave you a little warning because at this point, we already attempted to get past here. We did the first part right here, and then we got up into here, then they came right back down here, and then we went ahead and hit that 125 mark that everybody was waiting for. Now, this was that second bounce to see if we can get past that 125, and they are liquidating all the bulls along the way, so just be careful when you're dealing with this 107 level. All right, and we got the Russell. The Russell still looks like it's gaining some strength. I think I like where it is because right now it already had its all-time high. Now the question is this the all-time high? And then Russell drags the rest of the market down to its block, which would bring in NQ and ES. Very possible. And then now we got the undeniable, the force of nature called the US dollar. The US dollar is sitting on top of its order block, and I gave y'all warnings. Since that order block, we closed above it, there's a strong possibility we're going to push right on back up, but we got a nice block right here that can push it right back down after we went ahead and rebalanced this candle all the way at this level. Now the question is, can we take over this sell signal that's happening here and push right on up? That is what inquiring minds wants to know. Woo. That was a lot of information. Let's go ahead and get over to the earnings cycle. So we got a couple of things that's coming up. And I already kind of broke down a few of them. Coca-Cola, Philip Morris, GE Aerospace. You already know they divested. They kind of split it apart. Hey, look good to me. One of them that we talked about was Lockheed Martin, and this is what it did yesterday. Nice little push up on this upside as they going into earnings. But again, I do feel like Lockheed Martin is going to have a little bit of an issue because last earnings they went ahead and lost a lot of EPS. Unless these government contracts are in line, I could see this dividend day as a possibility that they knew something that we all didn't know and they went ahead and piled into it. But it does not mean for you to go ahead and run into it, because again, this area right here, if the earnings goes their way a certain way to the upside, they could take out a lot of that sell side liquidity on that side there. So just be patient, folks. Be patient. We covered Northrop Grumman. What else we covered? Well, Netflix is coming up. All right, so Netflix is going to have their earnings. It's going to have a nice little effect on the market. You can kind of see, ooh, look at that W, looking like it's what's to be a W. Now, what I'm thinking about earnings on Netflix, I'm very curious on what they're going to say about their live shows. Now, they have covered, if my memory serves me correctly, I think it's NFL. They got a contract with some of the NFL games, and they have WWE and other live stuff that they're working on. Now, the question is, are you a live streaming provider now? Are you going to open up the portfolio a little wider? Are you going to bring in some foreign live shows that will make things very interesting? As you got a lot of people that are from other countries that's probably like, I wish I could see such and such and such and such, like Bollywood or anything like that. So I'm very curious on what they're going to say here. Now let's keep this party going. All right, so earnings. What else we got in earnings that's coming up? We got a couple of things, like for example, we got ourselves EQT, Capital One Finance. But going over to tomorrow, we have ourselves Hilton Worldwide, Boston Scientific. Let's go ahead and look at AT&T. The reason I want to look at AT&T because this used to be a real big dividend play, but when they cut dividends, a lot of people ran away from it, and this is where they are currently. Now, they are not a growth company, so it's very interesting on what they're going to do going forward. If we look at this weekly, why am I yawning? If we look at this weekly, you can kind of see this was a nice little top over area here, right here, and then we're going to try to see if this can turn it into what could be a bear flag as they're breaking the 50-week moving average right here. So look for this, maybe get down to like $22, and since earnings is coming and they just pay dividends, I will not be surprised if that is the case. All right, let's go ahead and see what else we got in earnings. We got quite a bit of time, so I could probably take my time on the next one. Because I really don't care too much about AT&T. It's not a growth company. It's pretty terrible over there. That's in the morning. At night, we got a company, Alcoa. A company that really benefited off the Build Back Better. And now with the big, beautiful bill, I wonder if this is going to have some type of effect as we get into infrastructure and try to protect the country in itself. There's a nice little fair value gap that they could be aiming for right here. But I think their real target is probably around here. It's just $60. Because we built a nice little base right here. Let's see if I can find some order blocks. We got, and of course, this is a weekly chart to kind of bear with that. We got that one there. Let's see, we got that one there. That's going to make things interesting. What else we got? I think that's about it. Yeah, I think about that. So we're kind of sitting on top of all of these here. So the question is, can we break that psychological level of $40 as we break through? And then that $50 is probably going to be the real tell of what the market's going to do right here. And that's going to give it some pressure. You can kind of see we had issues around this level before. They used that support, turned into resistance, and it kind of came down to this down register. So now we got a base sitting on top of $25, which is another psychological level. So is it everybody that believe in this and $25 is staying in? I think so. This is giving positive amounts to their shareholders. That's a win. And they are a $2 billion, $3 billion company. And then they're anticipating that they're going to surpass that $3 billion. But I don't like the EPS. Maybe that's the reason why they are shorting this bad boy right here. But if this thing is a surprise of somewhere around the ballpark of, let's see, what was it last time? 0.39. If they get about that 0.25, 0.3, I won't be surprised that this is the build up, knowing that it was going to get there, and then everybody's going to pile in because they're going to feel like they're missing out, and the shorts are going to go ahead and run and put their tails between their legs. So I can see this getting up in that $50 level if the earnings comes out nice. All right, let's go ahead and see what else we got. Actually, you know what? Let me use this feature. Ready? I thought I could. I could control it. Let's squeeze this down a little bit. All right, so let's see. Wednesday. I did Alcoa. Really, no real interesting names after that. Okay, nothing from my watch list. Okay, that makes things a little interesting to see. Anything I recognize before I panic and try to go ahead and leave some of these names. I think I know that one. That's that health company. Tesla, LRC, IB. Okay, now we got some names. All right, so let's get these names. Let's start with Tesla. So Tesla. Now, the magic behind Tesla is also his downfall too, right? Because it's one of those very volatile ones that kind of goes all over the place whenever it feels like it. But to be honest, I think at the end of the day, it has broken major downtrends in itself, and there's a possibility we could continue to this upside. And I think this thing wants to get to $500 like yesterday, but unfortunately, there's a lot of selling pressure around that 450, 470, 450, 460. 470, yeah, I was right, 470 right here, and there's a lot of pressure here, so they're trying to overtake them using the support from about 400 and 380. Now listen, this is one of those ones you got to really pan out and plan accordingly. Right now it looks like Tesla has been playing inside of, let's call it here, and let's call it here. It's been playing inside of this range, and this is the first breakout of that. So if this thing falls right back into here, look for momentum to kind of bring it back into this level, and then kind of keep on bouncing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But if it stays above here, look for them to attack around here, that 471-ish, that high, and then see if we can go ahead and take that up. So that said, Tesla, well, let me do one more thing. Let's bring in the oscillators. Now the daily is like this, but the weekly looks like this, right? So this is the question that I do have for Tesla, is that can you cross this weekly back over and put some pressure on this 488 to get back to that 500? If you don't remember, Tesla was a issue, I think it's this one, right? Was an issue when they were trying to get into this area right here. Let me mark it off, like 414, right? So when they got that at 414, we spent a few years just literally playing down, and that's why they came in with another split, got new shareholders in, and it built up a position. It had a hard time getting back up into there. So you see that spike here and see that spike here? That's about the same range, and then you get that spike right down here. Are they going to announce another split? Will that kind of stave off any more losses? Like, what's going to end up happening here? And that's the very, very interesting, curious thing with Tesla, and we'll see what happens there, because this is that, and that would have been the drop right here if that was all things equal here. And since that did not happen, and we got this nice little base, is this really this area right here after the split? Are people believing into it? Because we had a nice little angle that looked very similar to this. There goes that, kind of like that. And we got this, kind of like that. So we'll see where Tesla goes. It's gonna be very fun. All right, let's go ahead and keep this going. We got Lam Research, this one right here. Let's come over to the daily. Their earnings is going to be interesting. You saw that weekly. That weekly looked like it's about to drop off of a cliff. Just to kind of give you a little background on that. This is actually in industrial machinery. So they actually provide. Let me just get to the point here. Lam Research and Design, Manufacture, Marketing, and Refurbishment of provisions of semiconductor processing equipment and use of fabricating. So a lot of people play this with your NVIDIAs, and that's why I have this on my watch list. but it doesn't follow like the Nvidias. Kind of give you a little bit of background, but because they are a constant, like they just run this company relatively well. It's a $5 billion company. We could be looking at an increase in that revenue, and they're going to give us a 1.216 after they gave last quarter 1.2. So they're looking for increase. Is it priced in? That's the question, and we're going to have to figure that out. But I would say overall, this weekly is giving some signs like that gets ready to kind of come down, especially that impactful week. So is this the order block that's going to stop us roughly around that 150 psychological level, and then we go ahead and continue to the downside? So plan accordingly, but this one does look good for some down movement. Maybe get back over here to 113 and then bounce right back up later on in the year for a rally. All right, and then IBM, we'll probably finish off over here. This is one of the makers of AI, if you really think about it, from all the way to their Watson days. And I thought this was going to go ahead and push right back up somewhere in the middle of July, and we kind of topped up over here, but it looked like they rebound relatively well coming into September, going into October. And this is a good sign because this tells us they want to put some pressure on that $300 level, which is around right here. And we kind of rejected it a couple times, and we rejected it recently. If this support actually holds its level the way it is designed, look for this thing to go ahead and take off to that 320. But we are flirting with a weekly bearish divergence. We got a nice little spike here, a low spike right here, and this is showing weakness on this uptrend that this can come all the way crashing down. And we're talking about maybe 234 if it gets violent, but I really think it's probably going to stop at the halfway point, maybe at 261. All right, so that said, I think I kind of covered everything for y'all. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. Let your friends know by sharing it off. All right, and if you are looking for any one-on-one sessions, by all means, go ahead and DM me, JD_the_great, on Instagram, and I would look forward to working with y'all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.